This virtual walking tour is about to take you on a tour of the historic residences in downtown St. George. Hopefully, you've already taken the virtual tour of the Pioneer Courthouse, which explains some history of St. George and how that history influenced the homes you are about to see on this tour. There's also a virtual tour of the historic commercial buildings around the downtown area, too. We will be referencing both of these other video tours in this tour, so you may want to watch them first. Just like the commercial buildings tour, this tour will begin and end at the Pioneer Courthouse. Like the commercial building tour, this tour is on city sidewalks, but is a shorter distance. The tour will stick to the north side of St. George Boulevard and is about 3/4 of a mile in length, lasting about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how long you stay at each stop. Here's a quick overview of our walking route. Here's the courthouse, as you can see marked on the map. We'll walk up the street to the end of the block and turn left. Essentially, the first part of the tour follows the same route as the commercial building tour. When we reach the traffic circle at Main Street, we cross the street and continue heading west on 200 North. We'll first start seeing historic homes just after crossing the street. The first two homes are now art galleries. If they're open, walk in and enjoy the art collections, as well as looking at the layout of the historic homes. Continuing west, we'll reach the Brigham Young Winter Home, which is almost at the end of the block. At the end of the block, we'll turn right on 100 West, now heading north. Along this block, you'll walk past 4 historic homes that are now all B&Bs. In order to function as guest homes, they have since been upgraded from their original design. After walking to the end of the block, crossing the street, then walking back south to see the homes on the other side of the street, we soon return to 200 North. Here we'll cross the street and continue south. On the right or west side of the street, we'll pass by more historic homes. When we reach the last one, we're going to carefully cross the street, then walk into the parking lot of what's called Ancestor Square. On the left, we'll walk past another historic home that is now a real estate office. Remember those long backyards mentioned in the Pioneer Courthouse video? Right now, you're walking on what used to be some of those backyards. Continuing west through the parking lot, we'll eventually get back to Main Street, where we turn right and head towards the traffic light at St. George Boulevard. On both sides of Main Street, numerous historic homes here have been converted into retail businesses or offices. We'll continue walking down Main Street until we reach St. George Boulevard. All the buildings on the right are either old homes that are now businesses or newer buildings that all make up Ancestor Square. At the traffic light, we'll turn right and walk half a block along the boulevard and look at 2 other buildings. When we're done, we'll turn around and head the other direction on the boulevard, cross Main Street, then continue straight back to the Pioneer Courthouse. If you're curious about the businesses you're walking past, see the commercial building video tour. One thing to keep in mind when you go on this walking tour, many homes along the way have small plaques like this one. Along with the information you'll hear next in this video, these plaques have additional information that you can read when you walk the tour route. All right, here we go. Like our other tour, we'll head north on 100 East, then turn left on 200 North. We'll walk past the Art Museum and Opera House and cross over Main Street to our first stop. That first stop is this house on the corner, along with the house next to it. They are now both art galleries. The first one is Authentique Gallery, and the one further down the sidewalk is a Loom Gallery. Our next house is a historically significant one. It's the winter home of Brigham Young, the second president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He led the Saints into Utah and nurtured their success. Brigham Young's winter home is well preserved as it is kept in tip-top condition by the church. In fact, tours are offered by church staff. Feel free to drop in for a tour while walking this route. Inside the home are some of the best examples of fixtures and furniture that would have existed in the homes on our tour during this time. You can see how a typical kitchen and the bedrooms were laid out and furnished. The house was completed in 1871, but Brigham Young didn't reside here until 1873. Many buildings were being completed around that time. You might recall that the Pioneer Courthouse was completed in 1870, the Opera House in 1875, the Tabernacle in 1876, and the St. George Temple in 1877, the construction of which Young oversaw. At the end of the block, before crossing the street, turn right and cross 200. We're now heading north on 100 West. The first house we see is the Thompson Mansion. It was built in 1871 by William Thompson and subsequently owned by Adolphus and Mary Whitehead, then Floyd and Leola Stevens. The home is now a B&B and is rented out in whole, not room by room, so it's perfect for family reunions and group gatherings. Next door is the Whitehead home, where Erastus and Josephine Whitehead once lived. This house was built in 1881 by George Whitehead, the younger brother of Erastus, who you'll hear more about in a moment. This house has been a well-known bed and breakfast for some time. Check out their website for more information and a great video tour of the home. And that puts us at the end of the block. The street ahead is Diagonal Street. Remember the discussion of the Arrowhead Trail and Old Highway US 91? The reason why the street is diagonal from the other streets is because it made a beeline from Utah Hill in the west and into St. George. This was the original route of Arrowhead Trail and US 91. Okay, let's carefully cross the street, turn left, and begin walking on the other side of 100 West, back towards St. George Boulevard. The next couple of homes are related to the Whitehead home. The first one is signed as The Cottage. This home was also built by George Whitehead. He finished it in 1883 for his bride, Esther Morris. The next one is the Woolley Foster home, which was built in 1873. It was also built by George Whitehead. Legend has it that the then unfinished attic was often used as a hiding place for polygamists when federal law enforcement was in town. In 1981, it became the Seven Wives Inn, Southern Utah's first B&B. Currently, it is the Mulberry Inn. We're now at the end of the block. Cross the street and continue walking south. There's a series of 3 historical houses to see on this block. First up is the Israel and Anna Ivins house. It looks like there's 2 homes here, but it's one property. The one in the center of the lot is the original house built in the late 1870s. Dr. Ivins was one of the first practicing physicians in St. George. Next is the Anthony and Elizabeth Ivins home. Built in 1875, it has a foundation and basement built of black basalt or lava rock. Alkaline soils here will quickly dissolve foundations made of sandstone. So, basalt was used instead, which is readily available around St. George and can be seen everywhere. For some unknown reason, this house broke Brigham Young's rule of building houses close to the street to facilitate bigger backyards for vegetable gardens that you may remember being explained in the first video. Anthony Ivins was a prominent public figure holding several civil and political positions, including Mayor of St. George, City Attorney, Washington County Prosecuting Attorney, as well as being very active in the church, serving 3 missions outside Utah, stake president, and various other roles. The nearby town of Ivins is named after Anthony. After that is the Moses and Orpha Andrus home. Once the rock formation was finished, it sat and cured for a year. Then the house was completed in 1893. Moses was a well-known pioneer cattleman. Okay, enough of this street block. Let's walk across the street and head over to Ancestor Square. We'll walk into the parking lot and pass by this historic home on the left. This is the Joe Burgess home, built in 1916. Continue walking through the parking lot until you reach Main Street. As you walk through the parking lot, remember that you are walking over what used to be several backyards and vegetable gardens. When we reach Main Street, turn right towards the traffic light. The homes along this block are now either businesses or offices. Before we cross Main Street at the corner and head back to the Pioneer Courthouse, let's turn right and walk a short distance to look at two more significant buildings. First up is the Augustus and Elizabeth Hardy House. It was built in 1871 by Sheriff Hardy. The house comes with an interesting Wild West story. According to legend, one of the doors in this home has a hole from a stray bullet shot by a group of vigilantes that broke into the house. They took the keys to the jail at the Pioneer Courthouse, then removed a prisoner accused of murder and promptly hung him. The chain of events may or may not be historically accurate. The break-in and shooting may have occurred at the courthouse, not at the home. Nobody can remember. Just past the Hardy House is an often neglected and ignored building, but it was very important to Southwest Utah in general. This was the Gardeners Club Hall, said to be the oldest pioneer building still standing in St. George. It was built in 1867. The members of this club took it upon themselves to cultivate all types of plants in order to learn what would grow the best here in the hot St. George climate. They traveled all around, mainly to California, and brought back plants for their experiments. Thanks to these people and their research, we now know what types of plants will and will not grow here and can plan our landscapes accordingly. From here, turn around and head east on St. George Boulevard, cross Main Street, and head back to the courthouse. Thanks for joining us on this virtual video tour of the historic residences in downtown St. George. And if you haven't already, don't forget to watch the other two tours of this downtown area about the historic commercial buildings and the Pioneer Courthouse itself. We look forward to seeing you on your next visit to St. George. The Pioneer Courthouse is open Monday through Saturday, but closed Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Admission is free. For more information, call 435-632-1215 or visit Facebook at Pioneer Courthouse STG.